Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress, live Wednesday night podcast. Do we have an amazing guest for you tonight? I am so honored with our Rhode Island Secretary of State, Miss Nellie Gorbea. Thank you, Secretary, for joining us tonight. We're really looking forward to having this conversation.
Thank you, Tina.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how your job has been going so far, so people who may not know you can get a little insight of who you are.
Sure. So I've been Rhode Island's Secretary of State for 6.5 years. In Rhode Island, that's an elected position, one of 5 constitutional officers elected by the people. And it's been going amazingly well. It's been a real blessing to be Secretary of State during these times. You know, when I first came into the office, it was pretty much, a filing cabinet, and not a very accessible one at that. And what we've done is to really transform it into becoming a hub of information that's useful to Rhode Islanders so that they can hold their government accountable. That they, I ran because I love making government work for people, and government should work for everyone. So my mission as Secretary of State has been to engage and empower all Rhode Islanders. And I am proud to continue working with you to ensure that all Rhode Islanders with disabilities have the same rights and opportunities as everybody else.
And we thank you for that, because you have done an amazing job going into your office and working with your staff. It's seamless. It hasn't been an issue for us at all. And it's very engaging and working, and I never have to wait for anything. I don't know if it's because of who I am or just because that's how you are with everybody, but I kind of hope it's a little bit of both. So we thank you for all of that you've done. I know we worked a lot with you during the election to really make sure that our elections here in Rhode Island were accessible and available to everybody. Can you tell everybody a little bit about how you went about that process and how you made sure that that happened?
Yeah, no, first of all, thank you so much. And I have to say that, no, your experience is not the only one. It's not because we know you. It's actually the way we treat everybody. And I say that because my phone never really rings with anybody trying to get special treatment. We make it so that it works, the office is working well for everybody. But with elections, I mean, nothing could be like more important than ensuring that every eligible voter can and does vote. And over the years, dating back to many, many years, I've had the pleasure of working with a variety of stakeholders in the community that are making elections more accessible. And in this past summer, it was even more important because of the pandemic. And, my elections division worked with the Board of Elections and the disability community to obtain, make sure that all these processes were accessible. And way back when I first came in, we made sure that we had state-of-the-art voting equipment. And we looked at also the automarks, which actually were purchased way back when I was a Deputy Secretary of State.
Wow.
And when we talked to the people in the disability community, people said that they liked that, and we couldn't find a newer equipment that we thought would do the trick. So those stayed. The automarks stayed the same. We had upgraded the regular elections systems. And then, we made sure that last year in the pandemic that if you wanted to vote from home, because that's how you felt safest, that you could vote from home. If you wanted to vote early in person, that you could do that, or if you wanted to come on election day. And I'm proud to say that was accessible throughout the whole election time period. We did 4 major elections. We added accessibility tags. So anyone using a screen reader or other assisted technology can use our application PDFs. And our main place for Rhode Islanders to find out about voting and elections is vote.ri.gov. It's a website that we've developed and made intentionally accessible so that, prior to launching it, we made sure that it met with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.0, And we made sure that we tested it with people from the disability community so that they could register to vote, update their voter registration online, just like everybody else. But you can't get there unless you actually try it with real people. And that's part of the secret
Right.
sauce at my office, that you make sure that it works with a variety of people. You know, we also provide Braille, tactile, and large print ballots. And like I said, we also have the AutoMark machines that which have also a sheet magnifier. So you know, we try to serve as many people in as many ways as possible.
Well, I have to say you did an excellent job because we were out and about checking in person, you know, and all the options that you had. I mean, a few minor glitches, but you get that no matter what. But they were always, every vote counted. Everybody was able to vote. We were able to, you know, fix the minor glitches that we had, and it really worked well. Now, moving forward into the real world with COVID hitting and all of how hard it hit all of our businesses in Rhode Island. I like to say that everybody got a small glimpse of what the disability community deals with. You couldn't go out of your
Yeah.
houses. You couldn't meet your family where they were. You couldn't access the things. We can't do that on a daily basis, whether there's a pandemic or not. So, how are we going to go about making Rhode Island more accessible? And how can we raise awareness to businesses to become accessible? Because that is the most important thing right now. So, how do you think Rhode Island is faring right now, and where do we need to do better?
Well, my opinion is not as good as yours in terms of how we're doing, you know. But from conversations that you and I have had, and I've had with other people in the disability community, you know, we have a ways to go. Now, you know, there are incentive programs to make businesses ADA compliant, as you can see and learn more about on the Governor's Commission on Disabilities website. You know, I'm working with my business services team to provide information on those programs to business owners by featuring it on our Maintain Your Business page. We have a, you know, start your business, maintain your business, so that businesses that have been around and are doing, you know, work realize that they have access to these grants. We're also working at my business services team to include information on these programs that encourage accessibility by including information about it in welcome packets that we provide to new business owners. And basically, what the program that exists does is that it assists businesses with complying with the ADA, Section 44 of the IRS code, allowing a tax credit for small businesses, and as well as Section 190 of the IRS code, which allows a tax deduction for all businesses. And we want to make sure that businesses know about this as a way to encourage more and more places to become accessible. You know, the tax credit is available to businesses that have total revenues of $1 million or less in the previous tax year, or 30 or fewer full-time employees. And it's also, you know, it's interesting because the credit can cover 50% of the eligible access expenditures in a year, up to $10,250 for a maximum credit of $5,000. You know, you can use that tax credit money for a variety of things to offset the cost of undertaking barrier removal, you know, altering to improve, you know, your landscape there in your business to improve accessibility, providing accessible formats such as Braille, large print, and audio tape, and then also just making a sign language a sign language interpreter or a reader for customers or employees. You know, the tax deduction is available to all businesses with a maximum deduction of $15,000 a year. So this tax credit and deduction is a real find and a real useful tool to make sure that businesses do this, and it can be used annually. So you can take your accessibility project by steps, by year, to maximize the availability of these dollars.
Yeah. What we really want the business owners to know is we're not here to make you broke. We're not here to cause a hardship to you. We want you to open up and be more inclusive so we can add to your bottom line. Because I know when I go out and about, I go with 4 or 5 friends. They may not all have disabilities, but you're getting a bigger party. You're getting a place where we can go and we can gather. And what's that going to do if we come in? We're going to add to your bottom line. And the bigger thing is it's not as expensive as you think it is to become ADA compliant. Like most of the businesses has that, what I like to say is that inevitable one step. A $250 portable ramp that's movable when it's bad weather or whatever, that you could lean up against the building, is $250. Now, what is that to having a party of 5 or 6 once or twice a month in your business? You know, so what do you say to businesses of why it's so important to become accessible?
You know, it's because, well, as you said, for businesses, it's important because it hits their bottom line. And you know, the disability community, like, you know, various other communities where everybody knows everybody, you know, it's tight knit. So you find out that somebody gives you really good service, you know, word spreads. And so, you know, I think that it's really something that small business owners should know more about and should go ahead and find themselves doing. I mean, we really could be the country's most accessible state if we set our minds to it.
Right. And it's so true. I mean, we had the conversation that maybe a business owner opening their business for the first time or opening their doors in the first 30 days, they're worrying about getting open. Who are they going to serve? Is a customer going to come through their doors? We understand that what you're thinking, unless you have somebody in the disability community in your family, you're not thinking about accessibility. But that doesn't mean that 30 days or 60 days down the road, they can't reach out to your office and say, okay, we're now open. We're getting customers. How do we get more customers? Or you could be open 10 years and they could say, hey, we want to do our front entrance this year. Next year, we might tackle the bathroom. You can do it in stages. You can do it little by little, and it doesn't cost you anything to get information.
Absolutely,
So
which is why.
Right. Tell businesses how they can reach out to your office after the facts once they're open to maintain and go from there.
Yeah, no, so that's why we're creating some information about that on our business services website at sos.ri.gov. You know, that those are the kinds of things that we want Rhode Island businesses to know about and to figure out a way, as you were saying, just take it one step at a time. Do the first step, you know, and then do the bathroom, like you said. It's important that we make sure that we're inclusive in our commercial practices. And if anybody has any questions on this, certainly you can go on our website or just call my office, 222-2340.
Yeah, and like I said, their office is so welcoming.
Thank you. It's 222-3040.
Yeah, we got to get the number right. But it's so important. What people don't realize is the disability community is 1 in 4. 1 in 4 Americans in this country has a disability. What people don't realize is once they become 65 and happen to use a walker or a wheelchair or a mobility device, which is the majority of the people over 65 at some point, that's going to be 50% of Rhode Island's population by 2030. So if your business is not thinking about becoming accessible now, you are literally going to be alienating half of Rhode Island from your business. So doesn't it make more sense to a business to start the process and do the front door this year, the bathroom next year, you know, and work and tweak the rest of your business in the next 9 years? So by the time 2030 hits, you are now fully accessible to the entire population. Does that make sense to you?
No, absolutely. And I'll tell you what else. I mean, we saw with this pandemic, as you were saying earlier, you know, what many of our, you know, Rhode Islanders with disabilities have to go through. And, you know, one of the things that came to a screeching halt was notarizing of documents. And suddenly we were getting calls from realtors and attorneys. We need, you know, to do this remotely somehow. And so we very quickly assembled remote online notarization here in Rhode Island and under the governor's executive order. And that's been hugely popular. What that allows people to do is to notarize important documents like wills, like you know, contracts, real estate purchases, and to do it remotely. Now, what we try to do now is we also include in our notary training, which by the way happens about twice a month. We include specific training on notarizing documents for those with physical disabilities that would prevent them from signing, as well as for deaf and blind signers, because each of those has a right to have documents that are notarized. And so it's why, now this all happened, the remote online notarization, under the pandemic's executive order, emergency executive order. Now what I'm trying to do is to make this remote online notarization part of Rhode Island law, so that when the emergency executive order goes away, this great new tool doesn't go away. So I've introduced in the House and the Senate. In the House, it's Bill 6254, and in the Senate is 931. And I'm hoping that at some point this year, in the fall session, the legislature is going to act on these bills. And what they do is that they allow this process of remote online notarization to happen. There are 31 other states that already have it in their laws to do remote online notarization. So, so that's been a huge improvement in services that we can give to people in the disability community.
Yeah, and like I said, the elderly population is the same thing, because once they become 65 or older and they either temporarily or permanently use a mobility device, this is something that's all accessible to them, and this is something that makes life easier for them. But becoming accessible, we have a wonderful event. It's going to be a Rhode Island's first event coming up on September 18th, called Accessibility is Beautiful. It is for business owners, our lawmakers, marketers, and everybody to see that the disability community and the regular able-bodied community can work together in tandem, from hiring the disability community to being accessible to the disability community, or just having your employees interact with the disability community that comes in. And I know you're going to be a very big part of this event. We've had a lot to talk about to make this event happen. So I welcome every business owner to register for that, because again, you get a free assessment by registering. You will come out to your restaurant or business, and we will assess your restaurant and give you 2 or 3 ways to fix your front door, 2 or 3 ways to fix your bathroom, with real dollar amounts, and working with your office and giving the tax credits that could go along with their assessments. What do you tell people? How important do you think it is for everybody to show up for this event and learn a little bit of what they didn't know?
No, I think it's fantastic that you're doing this, that you're organizing this kind of information session. And I looked forward to being there with my staff, and to be able to participate on the 18th. I believe it's over at the Steel Yard. And yes. We need to, our best decisions, whether it be in business or in public policy, are when we're inclusive in the variety of people who can be a part of things. And commerce is just like that. Another thing from the pandemic that we're now institutionalizing, because it went so well, is, and it's something, again, that people in the disability community who are somewhat, are not as able to move around outside their home, are able to take advantage of, is our new virtual office hours at the Business Services Division. So you can learn vital information about how to start a business, apply for a trademark, reinstate a business from the comfort of your home. And we also have like the virtual trainers, like the notary, but also a business startup training, which make it easier for those who are home bound to be able to attend. So those are all good things that happen thanks to the pandemic. The pandemic was really terrible in many, many, many ways. Yeah. Purely the loss of life that we had. But I like to think about things in terms of what good came of it as well. And being able to offer these new services is part of it.
It came with a huge positive, because like I said, everybody got to see what the disability community deals with on a daily basis. You didn't like it. You didn't like the isolation. So take us with you when you reopen. Not only that, is we in your office worked a lot with businesses about making the contactless delivery accessible for those with disabilities, like the contactless delivery from a business. I don't know if I'm blind. I don't know how many bags you're leaving on my front steps, or I'm in a wheelchair. How am I going to get my bag from my front steps to, the inside? Now that you made a lifelong customer because I love the favorite sandwich of the pizza place down the street from me, or, you know what I mean? You've made contact with so many people. We want to now come and enjoy your place. We want to now come and bring our families and introduce them to our new favorite meal or our groceries or our stuff. So we want you to become accessible. We want you to open up because we're an incredible community. The elderly community and the disabled community, we are an incredible community, and you're missing out on very incredible, smart people that can help you and that can raise your bottom line. So why not let us in? We're basically begging you to become accessible to give you our money. Why wouldn't you want to do that?
Well, absolutely. And it's again, it's part of diversity is good for stock portfolios. It's good for public policy. It's good for business, as you said before.
And with 1 in 4 Americans having a disability, there is no business out there that is getting either started or organization that is not going to encounter the disability community. So work with both of us, our organization and the Secretary of State's office, and find out how you can become accessible, because you can reach out to either one of us. And, I have asked the Secretary of State to speak at this event because it's such an important event. And, I asked her when she's going to the Chambers of Commerce and she's interacting with her small businesses. And do you not notice now that we've been having these conversations when you're out and about and you're visiting businesses, which ones are accessible and which ones aren't? Like, has it raised awareness to you?
Absolutely. And in our office as well. Now, we were fortunate at the Department of State that we had a champion of access, now Congressman Jim Langevin, who, was a previous Secretary of State. And he was able to really modernize the office in many, many ways, making doors at the State House open with buttons and things like that honestly would not have happened had he not served.
Right. But it's just so amazing that when you're out and about in the community meeting your small businesses, to say to them, hey, you got one step, you could put a portable ramp there for $250 and look at all the extra people that you can get in. And what people don't realize is it's not just for wheelchair users. It's for the elderly with walkers. Would you not rather your elderly grandmother who has a walker go up a nice smooth ramp or try to fight that walker up a set of stairs, or somebody with a baby carriage or a knee scooter? Or do you know how many people among us walk and they don't have knees, or they have a back injury or a hip injury and they just can't deal with the pain of stepping into those businesses? That look at all the people that I just mentioned that you could open your businesses up to. It is so important to think outside the box and get more business. The Secretary of State's office is offering all of these grants and loans and ways to save your businesses, opening up to more people, and 35% of the population right now. And it's going to be 50% by 2030. What's that going to do to everybody's bottom line?
Exactly. Now I have to make a clarification, Tina, that my office is not administering the grant program. We are providing information on it. In that sense, we're a hub of information. The how to get the credit or the deduction is something that, well, my staff will let you know how to go about it, but it's not being run out of the Secretary of State's office. We just wanted to make sure that we shared that information with business owners so that they had resources. Like you said, it's not just about tacking on expenses or tacking on obligations. It's about working together to make sure that we have a truly accessible society.
Right. But having that hub, like I said, I have called and just asked questions that I've already known the answers to, and they knew every answer. They had every answer. They had it out there, because I just wanted to make sure that when I'm sending somebody to your office, that they knew what they were talking about, that they were sending people in the right direction, kind of like vetting the office. And I've never had a blip. I've never had an issue. And that's what's so important about your office, that people can call in and it doesn't
Mhm.
cost you anything. You're not going to get sued. You're not going to get fined. You're not going to get in trouble for looking into becoming ADA compliant. And I think that's what a lot of people have, is the notion that if I bring this up and I'm not,
Mhm.
I'm going to be in trouble. What do you say to those business owners that have that kind of thought in their head?
No, just, you need to get more information. Tina, you've just made yourself available. I know that you have a cadre of volunteers that would make themselves available to help brainstorm. A lot of times, my success as an elected official has been about, rolling up my sleeves and saying, okay, how can I help you get there? And people react very differently when you're able to do that. So I encourage business owners who don't believe that it's possible to become more accessible to really, talk with somebody like you, or you, I know, can get other volunteers that can maybe point out to some very cost-effective ways to make their businesses accessible.
Yeah, and two very big misconceptions I'd like to break right now is there is no such thing as being grandfathered in. The ADA this month has been in existence for 31 years. Nobody is grandfathered in. Every business at this point should be accessible. And there's also no such thing as a historic value. Obviously, you have more leniency because we are not going to drill into 1,000-year-old marble staircase to put in a ramp, but there's another
Yeah.
door, there's another access way. You know what I mean? You have more leniency, but everybody should be accessible
Mhm.
at this point,
Yeah.
because you never know when it's you that's going to end up in this wheelchair. I ended up in a
And,
wheelchair in 10 minutes. That could happen,
and I
unfortunately, to anybody.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, again, going back to things that the pandemic has left behind that are really good and make us more accessible over at the State House. We've greatly expanded transcriptions in our state archives and state library, so that researchers who may be visually impaired can still read historic records. So we've just finished digitizing vital records going back to 1920. And again, that all makes it more accessible to people. The tours of the State House, as you well know, because I've seen you there, is a tough building because of the way it was designed. It's a beautiful building, but it was definitely made at a time when people were not thinking about accessibility of people with wheelchairs. And so we've developed, thanks to the pandemic, virtual tours of the State House. So you can do that on a laptop or on your phone and go through the tour of the State House. In our library, our state library just secured a $50,000 grant to digitize Rhode Island public laws. I mean, those are, things that maybe on first glance you'd be like, well, why? Why do we have to digitize the Rhode Island public law? Well, that is the difference between making government accessible or not.
Right.
Enabling closed captions of all of our YouTube videos. Doing all of that and then just being there for people who, request on demand and are not able to visit the archives, access to digitized materials and records. So if we haven't digitized it yet and you really want, a particular record, we will get it done for you. So, because I have a real strong commitment to making sure government is accessible to everyone.
Yeah. And that's what I like so much about you. And I'm not just saying that because you're on my show today, but you are accessible. You have called me from your car to have a conversation. And it's not just because of me. I've seen you do it with a lot of other people, that you're very approachable. You're very accessible. And if you don't have the answer, you will say, let me get back to you and I will find the answer, instead of just spewing off something that may not be true, or just to shut somebody up, because you get a lot of people who do that. I mean, let's be real, but you don't. You give the real answer, or you get the real answer, and you're very approachable to people. Where do you want to see Rhode Island in the next 5-10 years before 2030? What would you like to see for Rhode Island?
Well, I really would love to see Rhode Island through this inclusion and greater accessibility, really tap into the assets that are here in our state. I believe that we can have a more equitable and just economy if we tailor our policies and our structures to be more inclusive. We need to absolutely improve public education in this state. And we need to make sure that housing is affordable, accessible to a wide variety of, socioeconomic backgrounds. That young couple who just, started their life together is able to afford something as much as somebody who's a single parent. And then finally, climate change is going to present some real challenges to the ocean state. And we need to be prepared for that, be resilient, and make sure that we take advantage of the kinds of jobs that are available in this new renewable energy economy. So to me, that's where I'd like to see the state over the next 10 years is a much more inclusive and active state.
Yeah. One big thing that you mentioned that I'd like to see is we are the ocean state. I would love to have access to my ocean. I would love to be able to go down to the beach and run away from my family and the stresses of life and just go disappear all by myself. Right now, I need to take a small army with me in order to do that, to transfer and to utilize the chairs. But just something simple like that people, just go down and sit by the ocean. And there's nothing more clearing your mind in Rhode Island than going to sit by the ocean for, 5-10 minutes and just clear your head, refresh yourself, revitalize your body, and get moving. So having our oceans accessible, would be huge for us. But I really believe that representation is everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I have to tell you, I grew up in Puerto Rico and I worked for a governor there. And I remember vividly one of the improvements that we made to one of the boardwalks was to actually make it so that you could access the water, with a wheelchair. And it made such a difference in people's lives, as you were saying. It really is important to include that.
Yeah, many, many years ago, Rhode Island led the initiative on having the most accessible beaches, and we lost it. It went away. We need to bring it back. But, I think representation is everything. I have a lot of people who say, well, I don't see a lot of wheelchair users. You don't see us because we can't get out and about. We can't get into most places. We can't utilize the sidewalks. We can't have a place to charge our chair, and we can't get in and really access our government. So how do you see us? That having somebody like me out and about brings more and more people out and about. Representation is everything. Look at how many women have stepped up to office. Women of color, women of stature have now, overcoming our government right now. Imagine how many people of disabilities we could add to that. You know what I mean? And really make a powerful representation.
And we need those voices, like you said, in elected office, in boards and commissions. So if you're watching this show and wondering like, wow, I don't know, maybe talk to us, talk to Tina, talk to me, and we'll walk you through, whether it's a board or commission. That's how I started my work in public service, was through the governor's commission the governor's advisory committee on Hispanic affairs. And it was a really eye-opening experience, and it was wonderful. And decades later, you found me here running for office. It's not an accident that we finally have, equal male-female numbers in the Senate and greater numbers of women and people of color in the General Assembly. When you make democracy more accessible, you get different results. And so speaking to what you talk about in terms of before 2030, I would love to see many more people, including those who might have to move around in a wheelchair, to be able to run for office as well and to be elected.
Yeah. And your first step, like she said, is join a commission. I mean, I sit on many commissions. I sit on many boards. I started my own organization. If I wasn't getting the results I wanted from a commission and I didn't feel like I had much say, I started my own organization so I can get the information over there and take my organization to actually get the work done, in the private sector. there are many ways your voices is always heard, and we do have accessibility. And I believe a lot of our elected officials are accessible and approachable. And that's what's important. That, once we stop talking about color and women and accessibility and excluding, let's work together as a group. Let's find a middle ground. Let's listen to each other's stories. Let's come to a common area and let's make it work for everybody. Because the more people we make it work for, the more and more people we can make it work for. And I would love to see a lot of people like on the staffs. I sit on a lot of the transition teams for Governor McKee right now, and I've opened a lot of people's eyes sitting on all of those board. I mean, it was a lot of meetings to go through, but I click from this one to this one to this one. I'm doing it out of my own home. Now is the time to get involved, because you don't have to drive around and get out there and do it. But we want to see you out and about. We want to see you out there. And the Secretary of State's office, my organization, and our government is now empowering us to do just that. So if you're watching this, step up, volunteer, help Nellie out. She's going to be running for governor. She had threw her hat in the ring for governor. I don't want to not say that, because I think it's great. And I think everybody needs to see that representation out there, and, needs to get out there. Don't sit home and complain about it if you're not going to get out there and do something about it. So you have no right to complain if you don't get out and do something about it. What do you say to everybody? What would you like to give a message to everybody about you running?
So, well, first of all, let me just say that, and if this is something you're interested in, the Secretary of State's website is a great place to orient yourself. We've got all the boards and commissions information on our website. And if you want to run for office, our website, which is vote.ri.gov, has a lot of information about just the nuts and bolts of running for office and filing and all that in our state. So I encourage you all to go there and use those resources. What would I like people to know? I'm running for the same reason I became your Secretary of State, which is I'm running to make government work for people, everyone, as we were saying throughout this podcast. And we can have a more equitable and just economy, one that works for all. We can have better public schools. We can have more affordable homes that are also accessible. And we can deal with climate change. And those things are at what I believe at the core, what would make a better Rhode Island. And it's not just me with pretty ideas sort of spouting them off. At this point, Rhode Islanders know me, and they know that when I set my mind to doing something, whether it's running elections right or making sure that businesses can start and thrive in the state, or making sure that we have that the information about government, whether it be the archives or public information that is topical of the moment, that all of that is there at your fingertips. When business owners come up to me and they say, "Oh my gosh, Nellie, I love your business services division. They're so nice there. I get such good service, and whether it's, on the phone or on the web, they just love it." And I say, I just want you to know, first of all, thanks. But I did that with a team that's in place in that office that was there before me and will be there after me. They're 15, 20, 30-year state employees that are all members of the labor union, the laborers. And so it proves that Rhode Island can have a different kind of government. It's not just ideas when I talk about it. So I'm very excited about the opportunity to be the next guy.
Yeah, and it's so true. And you're so approachable, like I said. So what people need to know is approach you about, how do I go about running? What are some of the things that I need to know? And don't just throw your hat in the ring. Go out and learn. Work on a campaign. Maybe it's not Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea for governor. It's campaign that you work on. Go work on somebody else's campaign. Go work with one of your local representatives and do something in your town or your state. Start somewhere. Start as a volunteer. Start learning about what's out there. Don't just jump in the game and go running for governor tomorrow, because you got a lot of learning to do. We want you to get there, but we want you to, do it right and not be discouraged. What do you suggest for people just starting out and that would like to make a difference? How would you suggest that they got started?
So one area that we talked about was boards and commissions. Certainly running, being a volunteer in a campaign. There's going to be lots of campaigns in the next year and a half. Is a really good way. There's some really wonderful trainings that are national, like Emily's List has trainings for both people interested in helping. Not everything has to be about, the policy stuff or the organizing. Finances is a big deal. You don't have to, be mobile all over the place to do, financing of campaigns. You can do that from your home. And so definitely do all of those things, because it's how I look. I didn't even, I came and I became a Rhode Islander 30 years ago. And Rhode Island is the kind of community that if you roll up your sleeves and you say, I'm here to help, and you get involved, people welcome you. And it's one of the beauties of Rhode Island. I think unlike other states, people, you can be approachable. You can, oh my gosh, my poor colleagues who are secretaries of state in, Michigan or Arizona or Colorado, who still have to have state troopers because people are so infuriated out there that they're being threatening. I feel almost guilty, but I'm like, I don't have these issues here in Rhode Island because we have a different kind of community here. And yes, we have to grow it and make it better, but we're starting in a good place. And so, I'm looking forward to working with you, Tina, out of the Secretary of State's office. And then as this campaign evolves, to bring about that better Rhode Island. And I want to encourage everybody here that's listening, if you have a good idea about what we need to be doing differently in government in Rhode Island, absolutely reach out to me. You can email me over at the campaign at team, TEAM, at NellieGorbea.com, NellieGorbea.com. That's our inbox. And I look through those emails to see what people are saying. So thanks.
And I would really like everybody to listen to the candidate. Talk to the candidate. Don't believe everything you read in the paper. Don't believe everything you see on the news. Don't believe what your neighbor next door is saying. Learn from the candidate. Learn from the people. Learn about the issues. I hate all of those people who are Monday morning coaches, as I say. They should have done this in the game and they would have done this better in the game. You're not in the game. You're not in that stressful position. You're not the one making this decision. So you have no idea. We all make good and bad decisions. We all make right and wrong. But if you're doing it for the greater good and you're doing it for the right reason, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican or an independent or anything else. If you can open your mind and work with anybody, you're going to be successful. And that is the bottom line here. Work with all cultures, work with all races, because that's what Rhode Island is. Work with all abilities. Do not count anybody out. Open your mind to change. Have a good heart and do it for the right reasons. And you, I promise you, will be successful, because I'll tell you, that's how I made my name in Rhode Island, because I don't say anything that I don't stand behind or roll behind, because I really don't stand, but I don't say anything that I don't roll behind, and I speak my truth. If I don't like something, I say it in a nice, polite way, and I talk about it and hear the reasonings behind it. So really reach out and have that conversation before you make your decision, because the candidate you're probably knocking is probably the one that's going to fight the hardest for you. So really reach out and really do your research. But I want everybody to be part of the Accessibility is Beautiful campaign event on September 18th. Nellie will be there. You will be able to talk up front with her. It will be a link in the chat that you can go and you can register. It is open to the public. It is open to every elected official or everybody who's thinking about being an elected official. And if you're a business owner, this is for you. You will learn, you will see, you will get real world ways of becoming accessible. And then you can reach out to the Secretary of State's office and work with our fantastic staff and learn about the tax breaks, learn about the information, and get your business open to increase your bottom line. Secretary, give us your final thoughts to everybody of what this all means to you.
Look, Tina, first and foremost, thank you. Thank you for your courage, for your efforts. I mean, I've seen you everywhere, from the State House to the TV studios. Everywhere I go, Tina's out there making, the world more accessible. And I know that that's tough going sometimes. So thank you for making us a better Rhode Island. And my parting words are, that we have a fantastic state that can be better. And it's better when we include everybody from different backgrounds, perspectives, abilities. And I look forward to continuing to make Rhode Island government that kind of government, the one that responds to the people, that's here for people, no matter what your background, your abilities, however way you need to access us in government. We should be there for you, because you're assets. You're assets to our community, and to our world. And so thank you, Tina, for always being a willing partner with my office. And thanks to my team back at the Department of State, which is always works hard to make this happen. And I look forward to, yes, as you said, approach me, talk to me in the grocery store, at the drugstore, on the street. And I look forward to having those conversations with Rhode Islanders.
And what I'm going to ask is, when you do approach her, be thoughtful of her family. Be thoughtful of her time as well. You have your days where you don't want to be approached. No, I'm real. You know what I mean? I'm honest and I'm real. And if you're going to approach somebody in government, be willing to open and change your mind. Be open to have and hear, to really hear their perspective, because it might change your mind. You might see it in a different way. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them. I'm not saying that at all. But you do need to be respectful, and you do need to have a change of heart and look at it from a different perspective. Because I'll tell you, I have changed a lot of government leaders' ideas by watching me just roll around, fall out of my chair, get back in my chair, laugh it off, and do something else. Or, you know what I mean, make a mistake or apologize, or, you know what I mean, just being real and honest. And I have not had a confrontation with anybody because of that. I've been honest, I've been open, I've been willing. So do that. So yes, approach, but do it in a respectful manner. Do it in a way where you're not confrontational, that you're willing to really learn the difference, because you're not sitting in that office right now. Other people are. And like I said, we all make mistakes. And I thank you for that, because you're very open about the fact that you're not perfect. Nobody is. We make mistakes and we learn from our mistakes, and we're willing to change. And I want people to know that about you, that you're real and you're honest. And I can't thank you enough for that. But everybody, come and see us down on September 18th. Join in. You will see us way before that, out and about, because we have a lot of work to do to make sure we get this event up and running the right way and get as many businesses there. So invite the Secretary of State to a commerce meeting, or invite me, or invite us both to have us come down and tell you why your businesses should be part of this event. It is so important for your bottom line and your success. So thank you so much for being on our show tonight. I really appreciate you and everything that you've done. And I thank you for all of your information tonight.
Thank you so much, Tina. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. And I want to invite everybody back here next Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, where the tables are going to be turned on me, where I'm going to be interviewed. On 7/27 at 11 a.m., we will be live with the governor and the lieutenant governor and hearing their thoughts on accessibility. And the following night, we'll be live with our Rhode Island delegation, both Congressman Cicilline and Langevin, as well as Senator Reed's and White House. So we have a lot of big shows coming up, a lot of information poured your way. So make sure you're staying tuned. Make sure you're sharing out this video, and open your mind, change your perspective, and don't just sit there. Make a difference. Have a great night. See you all next